With that, the role of the Office of the Auditor General is to audit public funds, and in other words, to audit all public institutions. So this mandate is outlined in the Constitution of Zambia under Article 251, and the functions, they include to audit state organs, state institutions, the provincial administration, local authorities, and any other institution that receive government funds. Then the other function is to audit the shares, stores, and stocks of government in the country. And then also the function of the Auditor General includes conducting financial audits, value for money audits. The value for money audits, these are also called performance audits. And with the performance audits, we look at the 3 E's, which is the economy, efficiency, and effectiveness in terms of how the public resources are being managed by the public institutions. Then also, the other function is to ensure that we also check whether the public institutions are complying with the laws that are in place and the regulations that govern the management of public funds. So, and in doing that, the Constitution ensures that the Auditor General is not subjected to any control of any person or any authority in the discharge of his duties. So those are some of the functions of the Auditor General. And also to add that these functions are also stipulated in other laws, such as the Local Government Act, the Constituency Development Fund Act, as well as the Public Audit Act and the Public Finance Management Act. Thank you.
All right. So how do you undertake all these responsibilities? I think you've just catalogued quite a number of them. And how does the office engage in these activities?
Okay, so with that, like I mentioned, we carry out different types of audits. So with that, the office has ensured that different departments are created. So we have in place different departments that have been assigned the different types of audits that we are mandated to conduct. So for example, we have the revenue department. This department is responsible for conducting audits on revenue collection. So we go out to audit all revenue collecting institutions such as ZRA, RATSA, RDA. So that department is responsible solely for revenue collections. Then we also have an audit department that is responsible for auditing expenditure. So we go out there to audit how the public funds have been spent. So that responsibility is with the ministerial audit department. So those are just examples of the audit departments that we have in place to ensure that all these audits that we are mandated to do are conducted effectively.
And so interesting. Have you stuck to the traditional ways when, especially, I'll give an example on the audit on the revenue side. There are quite a number of papers that are issued, manual receipts, automated receipts. How do you manage, how do you undertake such programs? You're gathering receipts from all parts of the republic, local authorities, these receipts that we receive, maybe movement of crops and things like that. How do you, at the end of the day, just account for the balance sheet, revenue collection against expenditure collection?
Okay, first of all, what the public needs to understand is that as we do audits, for example, on revenue, we have audit methodologies that we use to ensure that as we conduct the audit, the process is properly undertaken and all the steps are undertaken and all the issues or the revenue systems that are in place are effectively scrutinized. So there is an audit methodology that we use.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we are able to undertake whatever form of systems are in place, whether automated or manually.
Okay.
And then also we also ensure that our own staff, our auditors, are also capacitated in terms of how to navigate through the systems that are in place, for example, the automated systems. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave you for a while and move to Mr. Mpofu. Maybe we'll talk about the accountability triangle process and which institutions are involved.
Thanks so very much, Julius. Because of the diverse viewership that we have, allow me to simplify what we mean by accountability triangle. So at elementary school, we learned about shapes.
Yes.
And one of the shapes we learned is about what? The triangle.
The triangle, yes.
Which is a shape under geometry. So a triangle has 3 sides and 3 corners. So when we talk about accountability triangle, we are now relating to those 3 corners that are there. So the 3 players that are there when it comes to accountability triangle, we have on the apex, on the top, Parliament. Then on the other 2 corners, we have got the Office of the Auditor General as well as the Executive. So what we mean then when we talk about accountability triangle? So Parliament ordinarily will pass laws which the Executive are supposed to implement. And one such law is an Appropriation Act, which is the budget. So Parliament will approve the budget for the Executive to go and implement. The Executive, which is the government, in this case we are talking about ministries, departments, and indeed agencies. They will be required now to implement government programs. And after implementing those government programs, they are supposed to report back to Parliament on how they have performed in the implementation of that budget. So Parliament wants an independent person to verify and give an assurance that indeed the report that has been produced by the Executive on how the government programs have been implemented is in total compliance to the regulation, the guidance that was provided by Parliament. This is where now the Office of the Auditor General comes in. So these are the 3 parties that are there. So the Parliament on the apex, the Executive, Parliament of course does pass the law, the Executive does the implementation of government programs, and Auditor General now provides assurance, independent assurance, to Parliament to confirm that the government programs have been indeed been executed as reported by the Executive.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, that's what we mean by accountability triangle.
All right. Yeah. And then how are these follow-ups done after all those processes are done? Do you just shelve the report, it ends there? What other follow-ups?
That's a very important question, Julius, that you've asked. So once the Auditor General goes and audits, provides assurance to Parliament, those reports now are tabled before Parliament. So the Constitution requires, in case of the main report, which I did allude that by 10 days' time should be ready, we will get that report submitted to the President and the Speaker simultaneously. Then in Parliament, there are different select committees that deliberate on those reports. So the main report, you have what is known as the Public Accounts Committee. So where there are findings, adverse findings, that relate to individual ministries or departments, the controlling officers are required now to appear before that parliamentary committee. Auditor General is a permanent witness in that committee. So our role is basically to support that committee as they interrogate and seek answers and responses on why we have adverse findings on respective ministries or departments.
All right.
So that's the procedure that follows.
Right. Earlier we did talk about that we are focusing on the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions, Principle 12, which I've learned even the intonation of your pronunciation, that you call it INTOSAI P12, and we'll be wanting to also get interested in why the P12 comes in and the other significance, what that symbolizes, the P12. Maybe you will also walk us through that. So we just want to find out what the INTOSAI P12 is and why it is important for the Supreme Audit Institutions.
Okay, so first and foremost, we need to understand what INTOSAI P12 is.
Okay.
So INTOSAI stands for International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions.
Yes.
As Auditor General Zambia, we belong to a global community of Auditor Generals around the world. And that community is called INTOSAI, International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions. Now this inter-SAI body develops law, principles, regulations. So they have a framework which we call IFPP framework, standing for Inter-SAI Framework of Professional Pronouncement. So this framework has three parts. The first part of the framework talks about principles, which are the principles that guide everyone, all the auditor generals in the world. The second part talks about the standards, which are international auditing standards that we follow in performing our audits. Then the third part of that framework talks about the guides. So in this case, we are talking of Inter-SAI P12. These are now the principles, which is the first part of the IFPP framework. So Inter-SAI P12 is a principle that requires or talks about the value and the benefits that supreme audit institutions like Office of the Auditor General are supposed to promulgate and bring about to the citizens. So Inter-SAI P12 was developed in 2010, sorry. And it's interesting that it was an African country actually that developed that standard, which is South Africa. And later on it was adopted by the global community. So under Inter-SAI P12, we are pretty much looking at what are the benefits that the Office of the Auditor General brings to the fore as a constitutional office. So to break this P12, I'll look at the types of audits that we do produce. Then I'll try or endeavor to demonstrate what benefit we do bring to the fore. So we conduct three main types of audits. They are what are known as financial audits, compliance audits, as well as performance audit, which are pretty much value for money. So we'll start with the financial audits. So over time, we've existed at an office. So we evaluate ourselves, what value do we bring to the citizens? And you must appreciate, Julius, that as an office, we bring benefits through other parties who are the clients that we do audits. So when you go to audit a client, let's say Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, one of the things that we do, we evaluate the internal control system. Are the controls working effectively or not? Where their controls are not working effectively, meaning that you get negative results of pilferage, theft, we give recommendations. And if you look at from the financial audit perspective, if you do a trend analysis, you actually discover that the queries that relate to theft, misappropriation of funds has drastically reduced. This is as a result of the recommendations that we give. So based on the recommendations that we give for institutions that do collect revenue, we recommended that let these institutions stop handling cash. And if you look now, you go to get your passport, most of these government services that are provided, you actually don't need to go and put cash. So that is one of the recommendations that we've given, which has been implemented by our clients. And we are now seeing the value that is arising from that. That pilferage of government resources or money has actually what? Reduced. When we come to performance audits, currently you are aware that we have a national disaster. We have a drought, which is a national emergency that has been declared. Under the Inter-SAI standards, we are required under Guide 5330 to move in. We will not wait until the ministries go and respond to that disaster. So currently, as I'm talking, we are conducting what? A real-time audit. Where we're looking at how is the government's preparedness to this disaster, the response, and later on we'll be looking at the recovery. You are aware that the government, for instance, under the real-time audit, are importing maize from Tanzania. I can confirm the affirmative that the auditors have been there as witnesses. They have witnessed, counted that maize, that does it exist. They have checked and worked with other ministries like Ministry of Agriculture, witnessed the testing of that maize to confirm that it meets the regulation, the specifications for the country vis-a-vis their non-GMOs. So these are some of the benefits that we are talking about. Currently, we are also in the field, working with DMMU, looking at how they are responding to this drought and supporting the government. So we've already given recommendation on how they can actually improve the efficiency and effectiveness in their response. In 2019, there was COVID-19. It was also a disaster and emergency. And in cases of emergencies, there's always a trend to override, overrule regulations. So we moved in as Auditor General's office. And as a result of the work that we did, we saved the government a lot of money through people supplying, claiming that they have supplied high specs of masks when it was not. There was also a lot of cash movement that was going. We moved in and recommended that we avoid those cash movements. So this is some of the values that we are adding from the performance perspective.
Okay.
We move on, let's say, to compliance. In 2021, we did the compliance audit looking at the mines looking at the law, it was quite an odd law, and based on the recommendation that we made, that law has since been revised and we have a new law. So these are some of the benefits that we do add. When you're looking at some of the government social programs, FISIP, the world talked about FISIP program. So the government will have different social programs which are being implemented by different ministries. So one program is the FISIP program, Farmer Input Support Program, implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture to alleviate poverty by provision of farm inputs. The Ministry of Community Development and Social Services also has a similar program, Food Security Pack. So as a result of the audits, we have discovered that you have beneficiaries that are under FISIP and FSP, getting from both social programs, which is not the intention of government. So through the work that we've done, we've now recommended that the database be integrated and those people who are benefiting from both are removed. This is one example of the value that we're adding, meaning that a lot of beneficiaries can now access that. If you check our 2021 audit report that we did, we had 25,000 civil servants who are benefiting from FISIP, but they are not eligible. So we've recommended, and these civil servants are no longer now eligible to access those services. So these are some of the examples that we can give when it comes into side P12. What values do we add? So these values are added indirectly through the recommendation that we give to our clients. So in a nutshell, this is what this principle in P12 talks about.
Okay. With all this hard work, one would wonder, are these recommendations just shelved on paper? What is not working for us? Because we still have these complaints that still pop up and say, okay, this is not done, this is not done. But when you come on the program such as this one, there's so much groundwork, a lot of work that has been done to correct those vices. Why are we not making it right?
Well, you must understand what our mandate is, Julius. Our mandate is to audit, provide recommendations. So the implementation of recommendations is outside our scope.
Okay.
It is up to implementing partners, business ministry departments. But of course we collaborate and we do recommendations. And it's also a requirement under audit standard that before we start the audit of the following year, we reach out to our clients and stock take what are the recommendations that we provided last year. To what extent have we implemented? What challenges do we have? And also when that report is deliberated at Parliament, there are also recommendations that are being done. So as an office looking at our limited mandate when it comes to implementation of those recommendations, we've taken up an initiative. We've developed a tool, an M&E tool, where we are working now closely with Parliament, Ministry of Finance and Auditor General's Office. We developed that tool. That tool focuses on follow-up on recommendations that have not been implemented. To provide real-time feedback and say, if you're looking at a Ministry of Agriculture, you had given 10 recommendations, how many of those have been implemented? What action has been taken? So this also motivates the clients to take corrective actions. So in a nutshell, this is what I can possibly talk about the implementation part.
All right. So having talked about also the values, and I just want also to learn and understand how the audit reports from the office contribute to enhancing public accountability and governance. And we may also go further to just maybe give us a few examples on how audit findings have led to significant improvements or reforms in the Republic of Zambia.
Okay. So audit reports, they add a lot of value, and one of the ways that they add value is by ensuring accountability in the public institutions. So by this, the management of those institutions are compelled to ensure that they are accountable for the financial decisions that they make. And also the other way that audit reports add value is that we also ensure in terms of mitigating the risks that are identified in the, for example, in the internal controls that we've audited. So by doing that, we make recommendations, what we call audit recommendations, to mitigate those risks. And in doing that, we, in coming up with those measures, we do 3 types of audits. That is the financial audits, performance audits, and compliance audits. So if you look at the financial audits, we look at the financial transactions how were they done in accordance with the intended purposes, and as we come out with the audit findings, we come up with recommendations on how those irregularities can be corrected. Then for performance audits, that's where we look at the 3 E's. So when we come up with the audit recommendations, we ensure that there is efficiency, effectiveness, and economy in the way the public resources are being managed. Then for compliance audits, we ensure that the institutions are complying with the laws that are there in place, and also to ensure that the regulations that are in place are also complied with. So with that, we ensure the audit reports, or in other words, the audit recommendations that we come up with, ensure that there is accountability and there is proper management of public resources. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm a keen follower of the sitting of the Public Accounts Committee, or this local government committee, and also the parastatal committee on audit on parastatal bodies and things. There seems to be things like a lot of generic. It's like something that is from all corners. For example, you have year in, year out of the issues of missing receipts, missing vouchers, late banking, and with all these recommendations and that you engage these institutions, why do these things still recur? I know Mr. Mpofu did talk about one improvement that has seemingly done away with handling of cash, which is progressive. But we still have these reports. At times you visit the office, you come to the department, to the committee. We are told the officer at the time that you visited, the officer had gone out of station, so the audit could not be taken, could be undertaken. So what interest you take to just continue giving us confidence as you talk about the values in the reports that you give to the public?
Okay, maybe just to explain that there are 2 things here that we can talk about. The first one is to understand how these queries arise. It is important to understand that queries arise because of people failing to comply with the laws that are in place that govern the operations of those institutions. So if the responsible officers fail to comply, for example, with the Public Finance Management Act or the regulations that are in place, then the queries will arise. So it is important for the responsible officers in these public institutions to ensure that they read and understand the regulations and the laws that have been put in place to which govern the management of the public resources. So if they can adhere to those regulations and laws, then we wouldn't have the queries that are deliberated upon in these select committees at Parliament.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking, well, that's why I called it generic, because you, for example, you have 116 local authorities. Maybe you find maybe 70% have similar queries, like missing vouchers, late banking, officer out of station at the time of the audit. These recommendations that you make, and then like you are saying, if people are not adhering to it, what else do you think you can do to make sure that these queries do not recur?
Okay, so one of the interventions that we've made as Office of the Auditor General, we've tried to engage the controlling officers in these institutions. We've sensitized them. We've made some initiatives to sensitize them on how some of these queries can be avoided.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've tried to also orient them on these queries can be avoided.
Yeah, also additionally, Julius, I think we have seen also a lot of traction that is coming from Cabinet Office. Mm-hmm. For the first time, from the time I've been in the office in last year, Cabinet Office themselves, through the Secretary to the Cabinet, initiated an interaction and engagement with the Office of the Auditor General. So the moment the report of the Auditor General was published, the Cabinet, Secretary Cabinet, organized a seminar where all controlling officers in the country were invited. And the purpose of that engagement was to discuss some of the audit findings that were raised and how best they can be addressed. Cabinet Office has what is known as a zero tolerance audit queries, as the Secretary, the Cabinet always talks about. So you can already see that this is a demonstration, it's a testament that I think from the government perspective, they are committed to ensure that we don't have any audit queries. And you must understand that when you do not have audit queries, it is actually an indication that there is efficient, effective service delivery. So this is one of the ways in which we are actually engaging with our different stakeholders to address the issues of queries. And it's good that this one actually came from the Cabinet Office itself.
Okay. All right. So, well, of course, this program aims at just trying to make sure that you have public trust and that the work that you do is, like we're saying, that is enhancing accountability. In what ways does the office work help build and maintain public trust in government institutions?
So, Julius, when it comes to public trust is earned. You earn it through your deliveries from what you do. You don't force it. And I'm proud to demonstrate that we have earned quite a lot of public trust from different stakeholders. For the first time, I think in years, international organizations now are requiring and requesting that Office of the Auditor General audits their books of accounts for the support that they're providing. Office of the Auditor General currently now audits all the World Bank projects that are in this country. African Development Bank, all those projects are audited. It's because of the trust and the confidence that they have in the Office of the Auditor General. How does that confidence arise? There are different ways in which it arises. First and foremost is from the constitutional perspective. Office of the Auditor General is an independent office, meaning it's not subject to the direction of any individual or office. So in that independent. Secondly, the office, I think, has endeavored to recruit professionals of different fields who are very competent to perform their work. And those professionals that we've recruited also belong to professional bodies. And Zika comes in, meaning we are regulated. Above all, we follow standardized methodology and auditing standards. And I think in auditing, that's one field where a practitioner has very limited leeway of making decisions. From the planning process, execution and reporting, we are highly regulated. So that already builds confidence that the work that we do, the quality of reports that we produce, are of international standards. Furthermore, Office of the Auditor General also belongs to a regional body called AfroSAI, which is basically a body of Auditor Generals in the region that speak English. So we have subscribed to AfroSAI. Every 2 years, we have a peer review where one of the size or Auditor Generals in the region or number of Auditor Generals will come to our office and review our procedures, the policies, the audit methodology, the audit files. That already now contributes to the quality work that we produce. So that is one way in which we build what?
Public trust.
Public trust.
Okay. What is the institutional policy? I know in every community or society there could be weak souls, people who might just, out of a little thing, they are tempted to do otherwise. What is your state and as an institution with regards to zero tolerance on corruption within your setup?
That's a very good question. And you realize that as a profession.
And of course that enhances public trust.
Exactly. You actually realize that any institution, any profession is aware of such risks that they materialize. So as a preventive measure, at a professional level, we belong to Zika, where there are very strong ethical requirements that each one of us who practice accounting is supposed to abide. At an office level, we also have a very robust code of ethics that we follow. Those code of ethics, first of all, are embedded as part of the policies. Then also at engagement level, when you are going to conduct an audit, those ethical issues also arise. There are working papers that are supposed to be completed. before the engagement, before you assign an audit engagement, you need to declare whether there are conflict of interest or not. At the end of the audit, you also need to declare that there are no conflict of interest that do arise. Also, in looking at corruption, you have an MOU with the Anti-Corruption Commission. These are also some of the interventions that we are trying to bring to ensure that our officers behave to required ethical standards. We have integrity committees that we also running within the office, working of course in collaboration with the Anti-Corruption Commission. So these are some of the measures that are in the office. And as an office, we have zero tolerance towards corruption. Once an officer has been implicated, immediate disciplinary action is taken. So even when it comes to other policies, gift policies, we have very robust gift policies, meaning if you are going to give me a pen today, I will need to go and declare, sign a form. So all these are measures that we need to put in place. You realize that an institution like ours, one of the major risks that we face is reputation risk. So once our reputation as Office of the Auditor General is lost, it means that no one will have trust in the reports that we produce. So this is one of the risks that we take care of and manage with all the resources that are available.
All right.
Yeah.
Right, this is the Auditor and You program on all our platforms, television, radio, YouTube and Facebook. And today we are looking at the value and benefits of the Supreme Audit Institution, and I have two guests with us just to walk us through this very important topic. I have Ms. Cynthia Matimba, who's the Chief Planner from the Office of the Auditor General, who's on my immediate left, and also Mr. Bonwe Mpofu, Director Planning and Research Directorate from the Office of the Auditor General. If you have a question, our text line is 0978 772801, 0978 772801, or you can also drop a comment on our Facebook page, which equally is carrying this live interview. So I turn to Ms. Matimba. Earlier we talked about, also hinted on engagement with stakeholders, collaborating partners. Even when Mr. Mpofu was explaining about the triangle, he did cite the executive, the legislature, which is parliament, and also I'm sure that you are not in this whole field alone. You engage stakeholders such as Parliament, which is the legislature, as well as civil society, and also the fourth estate, which is the media, of course, like we are doing, also disseminating information to the public to ensure that it's audit. How do these stakeholders ensure that the audits have a meaningful impact?
Okay, so when it comes to stakeholder engagement, first of all, we also ensure that as Office of the Auditor General, we comply with the INTOSI P12, and whose one of the objectives is to ensure that we remain relevant to our stakeholders. And how do we ensure that? So we ensure that we engage with our stakeholders. So if you look at our strategic plan, we have a strategic objective solely for stakeholder engagement. Why? Because we also recognize the important role that they play in our core function of auditing, and we do that by ensuring that we engage them. We create forums where we interact with them. So, for example, you talked about the media. We understand that the media play an important role in disseminating our audit findings, or in other words, the audit reports. So we ensure that they understand how we prepare the audit reports and what is contained as they are disseminating what has been published in those audit reports. So we hold workshops, for example, with the media to induct them on the audit process and how the information should be disseminated, because we also want to avoid where there can be miscommunication or certain information is miscommunicated to the public. So we ensure that we orient the media on the audit process and what is being published in the audit reports. Then we also engage with, for example, the law enforcement agencies. If you check in the Constitution allows us to report or to share our reports with the law enforcement agencies for audit queries that require prosecution. So as we interact with the law enforcement agencies, we make sure that our audit reports are shared with them so that they make use of them. Yeah. Then also, we also engage with the civil society organizations, and we've also come up with initiatives where we can enhance our interactions with the CSOs. So currently we are running a project where we are engaging the CSOs countrywide, and not just the Lusaka-based CSOs. So this is to ensure that in the effort of promoting transparency and accountability in public financial management, we want to ensure that these stakeholders who also play a critical role in effective public financial management also come on board. We work together so for the benefit of the country.
All right. And so how does this stakeholder feedback play in the audit process and also in the implementation of the audit recommendations? Okay.
So they've contributed quite a lot in that the way we are now responding to their expectations. We've also ensured that our audits have enhanced. For example, we were not alive to responding to imaging issues. For example, where we talk about real-time audits, we've listened to the public where they've said, okay, so we have this currently this disaster ongoing with the drought.
Yes.
So how is the public being assured that the funds that are going towards the response, to the drought response, are being managed properly? So as an office, we've listened to those voices and what the public are saying and the stakeholders. So we've also responded by ensuring that we start conducting these real-time audits. Another example is on the COVID, which Mr. Mpofu earlier mentioned. That one also, it's because we reacted to the public concerns, to the stakeholder concerns. So in that way, our audits are also being enhanced, and we are also ensuring that we are responding to their concerns in real time.
Okay. There's also a silent or an invisible stakeholder. How do you bring them on board? The whistleblowers, are they part of your stakeholder engagement arrangement? How do you bring them on board, and how do you protect whistleblowers?
Okay, so we've also come up with an initiative to also address our whistleblowers. We have a toll-free line which we have created in the office, where the whistleblowers can call in and report those issues which they have.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll also now move on to earlier on we are looking at the advancement of technology, innovations. Are there any recent innovations under the Office of the Auditor General that you have adopted to improve the audit processes?
Yes, like I mentioned, we are ensuring that we are responding to the imaging issues and the changes in our auditing environment. So if you notice, in our auditing environment, everything has become automated or digitized. So we've ensured that we haven't remained behind with the technological developments in the auditing environment. So we've ensured that our audit process has also been automated. So currently we are rolling out what we are calling an audit management system, which is called ZSIT. So this is an audit management tool that basically is automating the audit process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and also, are you able to share with us at some point? You need to share with us the toll-free line, but I can see that Mr. Mpofu would want to chip in.
Yes, so additionally, when it comes to new technology that you're adopting, you are aware that the global world now is moving to artificial intelligence. where our audit clients are also adopting that technology. So at a global level, in the auditing community, we are also seeing how, we are also advocating how we can actually start embracing artificial intelligence in the audit process.
Okay.
This is one of the most topical issues that we're looking at as an office.
Okay. All right, so there's a concern that Peter Mafalo writes and says, maybe at times you do not take, or not take the way he's just put his text, but he says the Office of the Auditor General at times stands down the efforts that CSOs bring on board. How is your relationship with the CSOs? You say a follower on Facebook by the name of Mr. Peter Mafalo. How do you engage? How is your relationship with CSOs as you undertake the stakeholder engagements?
So when it comes to stakeholders, the CSOs, I must admit that post the outreach has not been so deep, in the sense that most of the stakeholders that we engage CSOs are those who are domiciled within the urban areas.
Yes.
But now with a new project that we have, we are working also with TIZ, who is coordinating other CSOs that are involved into the accountability space. So in that project, actually, working with TIZ, who is coordinating all these CSOs, we want to have a wider outreach so that all these other CSOs that are involved in accountability are actually involved in.
Okay.
So to an extent, I actually agree with him, especially those that are domiciled in far-flung areas. We have not really reached out, but we are taking this initiative to be very inclusive so that everyone else is actually part and parcel in this accountability fight that we have.
All right, and Peter again goes further, wanting to find out the relationship between FIC and the Office of the Auditor General as well as SEC.
Okay, that's a very good question that has also come up. So as part of the engagement that we have, if you look at our mandate as Auditor Generals, it ends at auditing, meaning that another arm of government must take up the work that we've done. And our Auditor General's report actually is one of the main reports that these law enforcement agencies use for prosecution. So what initiative have we done with these law enforcement agencies? So we've got an MOU with FIC. We also have got an MOU with ACC. So in the course of the audits, even before the publication of an audit is done, if there is evidence to the fact that there is law breaking that relates to corruption and money laundering, fraud, we immediately report. Then also the Constitution, as Madam Matimba did mention, we are required by the law that whenever we see issues that require further prosecution, the Auditor General is required to inform law enforcement agencies. So we have a very healthy relationship. Then apart from that, we also have what is known as a task force that involves all law enforcement agencies, DEC, FIC and ACC. So we work very closely because in certain instances we are the first level of information when it comes to corruption and fraud. So we've got a very healthy relationship with these other law enforcement agencies.
All right.
Yeah.
Earlier when we were talking about performance audit, which is one of the audits that you carry out, I'd want maybe to give comfort in that line to our listener who sent a text message here, Mr. Luwinda Sinyinda from Mazabuka, who says, here in Mazabuka we applied for CDF, but only few are given the money. So we need a proper report why we are not given money, or all of us. So as you conduct maybe the performance or compliance reports, do you consider such queries that arise from all these government initiatives that have good intentions, so to say, but the scenario in Mazabuka says you apply and then CDF money is just given to a few. Do you consider under one of your audit avenues to take interest in such inquiries?
Yes, definitely. So when it comes to CDF, we must understand that there's a ministry that is Ministry of Local Government that is actually implementing that CDF. And under CDF, there are what are known as guidelines. And under those guidelines, there are criteria that are provided for people to access the CDF funds under different facets of the CDF. So our role when it comes to audit CDF, we'll pick that act, the CDF guidelines. We'll look at the people who have applied. We'll look at the criteria that was in place and eligibility. So where the observation to the extent that some people are eligible, have met the criteria, have not been provided, we will naturally bring that. Yeah, but there are also people who could as well apply, but they don't meet the criteria that is provided for in the CDFR, in the guidelines, so they cannot access. But for that case in Mazabuka, I would strongly recommend that he engages the local leadership and brings that issue. And it is also free to reach out to us, and you have any evidence the fact that he's eligible, he met the criteria and he has been discriminated, we will naturally be happy to receive that complaint and forward it to appropriate authorities.
Right. So, Madam Matimba, are you able to share with us the toll-free line if you have it?
Yes, so the toll-free line is 5566, and it's only available on MTN and Zamtel.
Any other venue? 5566. This is the short
5566.
So it takes active calls,
Yes.
SMS messages.
Yes.
Are you on any social media platform?
Yes, we are. Actually, we are very active on Facebook as well as Twitter.
So you are which is X now. So are these platforms available for inquiries or someone wanting to
Yes,
feedback from you?
they are very much available.
Okay. Good morning is another message that comes from 0979601483. We'll be glad if you indicate your name and preferably also your constituency, because that is one of our key identities that we undertake as Parliament. We would want to listen to our viewers and listeners from the constituencies where they are addressing us from. So just leaving us with your telephone line is not enough. And it says, what measures does the office take if an individual is found wanting, and how transparent is the process?
Okay, so
any one of you can take it up, please.
Okay, all right. So what action is taken? Like Mr. Mpofu earlier mentioned, our mandate ends at reporting. So if you look at the Constitution, it says we shall submit an audit report to Parliament and the President. But then when it comes to action, it's now the other responsible government wings that have the mandate now to prosecute and take action. I'll give an example. From the ministry point of view, it will be now the responsible ministries to ensure that they take action against the erring officers within their respective institutions. And this is based on the audit recommendations that we make as Office of the Auditor General. Then also we have the law enforcement agencies, which Mr. Mpofu alluded to, the ACC, the ACC, the DEC, FIC will take up those issues now, which will require, for example, prosecution. And that's how action is taken.
Okay. All right. With regards to challenges and also best practices, how does the Office of the Auditor General fare? And I mean this if in comparison with the Supreme Auditor institutions in the region, which you earlier alluded to, for example, that this instrument was developed by an African country. And so how do you fare in comparison with the Supreme Audit institutions regionally and also maybe globally over in terms of independence?
That's a very important question, Julius, that you've asked. When it comes to audit assurance, independence is the cornerstone of the work that we do. Earlier on, we discussed about the accountability triangle, where I talked about Parliament providing the budget, the ministry or the executive implements, then they report back to Parliament. But Parliament wants someone who is independent to validate the work that the executive has done. It's not that they don't trust the executive, no. So this is how independence works. So when it comes to Auditor General's office, are we independent? That's a very interesting question to answer. So when it comes to independence, there are different variables that we look at from the professional perspective. And these are provided, first of all, at INTOSAI level, as well as the UN resolution. So when you go to the Constitution, I think it's very clear and elaborate that the Office of the Auditor General is an independent organization, entity. It is not subject to direction and review of anybody or any institution. So we are independent from that perspective. But when we look at INTOSAI, they further now provide different criteria that constitute independence. And one of the areas that is there is independence when it comes to operations as well as financial independence. So how do we fare globally? So when it comes to global community, we have got different tools that each one of us is supposed to be evaluated as Auditor Generals. So at a regional level, at AfroSci level, we have a tool that is called ICBF, Institutional Capacity Building Framework. There are different domains where we're evaluated on methodology, communication, stakeholder, and one of the domains is independence, where we are measured, are we independent? Then, and this is done annually. Then at a global level, we have another tool, which is called SciPMF. Sci standing for Supreme Audit Institution Performance Measurement Framework. There are also domains with very specific questions and criteria that is provided. And one of the domains also look at there is independence. So from the legal perspective, as provided for in the Constitution, it is very clear that we are independent entity. But when it comes now to operations, we fail at international level when it comes to operational independence as well as financial. What do we mean by operation? The standard requires ordinarily that employees of Auditor General are supposed to be recruited, remunerated by Office of the Auditor General. But currently we are part of the what? The civil service. So from that perspective, we don't meet that criteria. Then also when it comes to financial, under the criteria, under ICBF and SciPMF, our budget ordinarily is supposed to be approved by what? Direct by Parliament. The current practice is that our budget is actually approved by what? The Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance is also our audit client. So from that perspective, we don't meet that criteria. So from two perspectives, that's financial as well as operation. However, I'm glad to inform you that these two areas we are not doing very well. We already have two acts that if those two acts are operationalized, then the Office of the Auditor General now will meet all the requirements when it comes to operational independence as well as financial independence. So we've got an act which is called the Public Audit Act number 29 of 2016. That act intends now to meet the financial. So once that act is operationalized, then we'll meet the criteria. Okay. So it's an act that is already approved by Parliament. It's just operationalization part that is remains. Then for administrative autonomy that we are lacking, there's also another act that was passed in 2016, which is called the State Audit Commission Act number 27. So the moment that act is operationalized, then Office of the Auditor General will stand high and say, we meet all the global requirements. Okay. Yeah. So from the audit perspective, I think we've been engaging with relevant authorities to ensure that these two acts are operationalized so that we meet the international requirements.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you stand?
We are far closer to 10. It's just these two that we can say we are 9 out of 10.
Okay.
And that 10 can be attained within the shortest possible period as long as these two acts are operationalized. So we are almost there.
All right. Yeah. What are the long terms, Ms. Matimba, on benefits of having robust supreme audit institutions like the Office of the Auditor General in Zambia's governance and public sector management?
Okay. The long-term benefits are quite many, and they include enhancement of the oversight function of Parliament. Remember, from the accountability triangle, we all report now back to Parliament on how the resources have been managed. So if the Auditor General is capacitated and is able to do its mandate effectively, then there would be assurance that the way the public resources are being managed for the intended purposes, and we are achieving our development goals as a country. So they help in ensuring that Parliament's oversight function is enhanced. Okay. Then also the long-term benefits also include accountability and transparency in all the public institutions. Just by the mere fact that the institutions know that Auditor General is coming in to audit, there's that sense of awareness to say we need to manage these resources properly, because the Auditor General come and audit. So there's that sense of accountability and transparency among the responsible institutions.
So does that signal to us, like motorists who just pull a seatbelt when you say traffic officer, the preparedness to audit, because I've heard that, oh, this time around they should be passing to come through. That's when they want to put pieces together, like we do, like I said, on the road. You see a traffic officer in front of you, you start looking, what haven't I done right? You pull a seatbelt and things like that.
It doesn't mean that. What people need to understand is that we are not doing it for the Office of the Auditor General as we are managing the funds. We should understand that we are doing it for all of us and for the benefit of the citizens. Remember, we have people living in rural areas, far-flung areas, who need proper facilities such as education, health. So we need to ensure that all those, our relatives in those far-flung areas, are also benefiting to these public resources. So we need to make sure that we don't do it for Auditor General, but for the benefit of the citizens.
All right. And how would you contribute to the attainment of government's achievement on sustainable development goals, and maybe also support with the 8th National Development Plan? What's your contribution?
So in supporting government in achieving the 8th National Development Plan as well as the Sustainable Development Goals, we've ensured that we have what we call a Performance Audit Directorate that's responsible for monitoring how we are implementing the SDGs. So all our performance audits, we ensure that they are linked to a certain SDG. So, for example, on social cash transfer, which is aimed at alleviating poverty, we have an SDG on alleviation of poverty. So we ensure that all our performance audits are linked to the SDGs. Yeah.
All right. So I'll let you go with one last question with regards to, do you have any upcoming changes or strategy directions for the Auditor General's office that align with the latest Intosai P12?
Yeah, in terms of aligning our strategic directions as an office, we've ensured that we adhere to the objectives of Intosai P12. I'll give an example of the objective of remaining relevant to our stakeholders, where we've enhanced our auditing processes by digitizing them. Then also in terms of ensuring that there's accountability and transparency in the management of public resources, we've ensured that we've continued to train our auditors to ensure that they are up to date with the changes that are happening in the public institutions, to ensure that we remain relevant. So that is the strategic direction that we've taken. So if you look at our vision as an office, is to be a credible and independent institution that promotes accountability and transparency. So by being credible, we ensure that we are capacitated, and we are not, as we are carrying out our duties, we are not being controlled by anyone. Yeah.
All right. And Mr. Mpofwa, in closing, with regards to what do people remain with or take home at the end of this program with regard to your independence, you are head of planning and research, what is it that you look ahead and to instill public confidence with regards to operations and the goodwill that you intend for the execution of public resources and the role that the office plays with regards to its accountability of public finances?
So thanks very much, Julius. So as the takeaway, possibly as Office of the Auditor General, we are committed to execute our mandate, and of course we are doing that mandate. And also an evolving institutions responding to the times that are changing. We are now going into social media to meet the certain expectation of people. But we can assure you that the reports that we do produce are high quality standards. Quality of audits depend on standards that we follow. We follow the international standard of supreme audit institutions. international standards of auditing, which pretty much compels and forces us to do the work to international best practice. So that is already an assurance that the reports that we produce, they meet international best practice, and they also help Parliament to function as it provides this oversight role in the management of resources in the country.
Right.
Thank you.
I know that we're long day ahead of you. I have to let you go for now.
Thanks, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for appearing on our program.
Thank you.
Right, there you have it. Viewers, listeners, and followers on our social media platforms. I acknowledge that you've been following, and those of you who've been sending messages that you are following us, sincere thanks. You've been listening and watching and also following the Auditor and You program that comes every Thursday at just about this time. And our focus this morning was the value and benefits of the Supreme Audit Institution. I was privileged to have in the studio my guests. On my immediate left, Ms. Matimba Cynthia, Chief Planner, and Mr. Bonwell Mpofu, who's on my extreme left, the Director, Planning and Research Directorate. Until next Thursday, this has been your presenter, Julius Musmali, and on sign language interpretation, Chora Kaoma. And on behalf of the entire production team, we sincerely thank you for following our program. We'll see you next week.
Stuck on you. Ooh, obsessed with you. I'm obsessed.
With Showmax, your favorite characters now follow you anywhere. Download it today and watch the best in local, international, and everything in between.
Her Honor, the Vice President's question time.
Questions for oral answer understanding order number 76.
For a matter to be admitted, it has to be of recent occurrence.
Continue watching Parliament TV, a channel dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you.
You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call 0977 854102 or 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
Kalewangu! Kick off your summer with top-class football this September live on Top Star. For only 180 kwacha until a classic OD Smart. Catch the return of club football as we love it with the flair of La Liga. On Sunday, 15th September, watch Mbappe's Real Madrid battle Real Sociedad and Girona versus Barcelona live on Sports Premium. Also witness every goal and celebration on Saturday, 14th September when Bayern faces Houston at 18:30 hours live on World Football. That's not all. Feel the heat of the month with the whole new set of best Filipino telenovelas on Novela E+. Catch the premiere of The Fake Life starting 9th September at 20:40 hours every day. No power? No problem! Catch all football matches and favorite series by downloading the StarTimes All app. Link your decoder and enjoy watching for free. Top Star. Enjoy digital life.
You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call 0977 854102 or 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
I'm Francis Robert Kapyanga, aged 35. I'm born and bred in Mpika. That's where I did my primary, secondary school education. Yeah, so briefly, I'm Francis Robert Kapyanga. I'm also a married man, a villager from Mpika. Mpika is a very dynamic constituency. First and foremost, politically, that's where the founding father of Patriotic Front, the late President Michael Chilufya-Sata, came from. Then it is also geographically a constituency that is housing the biggest national park, that is North Luangwa National Park, and in two chiefdoms, that is Mkungule and Nawada chiefdoms. Also, it is the one that is housing the regional headquarters for Tazara, and also housing the biggest workshop in Southern Africa. Also, it is a farming area. One of the economic backbones of Mpika is farming. We grow tomatoes, onions, and all the vegetables, as well as maize. Yeah. So largely Mpika is such a constituency that has a huge potential. It actually also has minerals such as gold, diamond, mica, and manganese. Yeah. So briefly, that is Mpika, and it is a constituency of a population of about 180,000 people. Initially, it was a very big district, and the previous government saw it wise to slice Kanchibia from it, as well as Lavushimanda. These are also newly created district. So we had in the past, we had the Mpika Central, we had Mfue, we also had Kanchibia. Right now, the whole district is one constituency. Yeah, because Mfue was taken to Lavushimanda, because Lavushimanda was a district without a constituency status, so they saw it was to take Mfue to Lavushimanda, and Mpika district as a whole remained as one constituency. So currently we are saying it's Mpika constituency. There is nothing like Mpika Central, Mfue, yeah. So that is briefly about Mpika. And what is important to take note of is that the poverty level is very high. More especially that Tazara is not doing fine. You know, when Tazara was Tazara, we would have Tazara employing about 3,000 people just in the workshop. Right now, we only have about 600 workers in the workshop. So that means the youths are not getting employed. Even when Tazara workers get paid, that impact is not felt by the people of money being in circulation. First and foremost, maybe our focus should be, and has been, on women and youth empowerment through cooperatives, because that is the only way we are going to tackle the high poverty levels. We want to empower women. First and foremost, we need to give them skills. If it's skills in tailoring, after they graduate, we make a cooperative for them, then buy them same machines and materials for them to have where to start from. With the coming of the increased CDF, which is 25.7, we are very optimistic that we are going to empower women and youths in that area. Those that have skills in carpentry and joinery, we give them materials and equipment. Those that have skills in electrical, we give them what to use, the tools and everything, then we empower them. Those that have skills in bricklaying, then equally we do like that. So first and foremost, we want to focus on women and youth empowerment, then also look at the, of course, lobby for roads, more especially township roads in Kamwanya, Chiturika, and the other areas. Also the issue of, we also want to ensure that we we focus on the issue of early child marriages in Mpika is very high, and we have teamed up with their Royal Highnesses, our chiefs, to ensure that we fight the scourge with the vigor it deserves, because we know to say if today we allow parents to marry off their children at a tender age, we are not going to have Mtale na Lumango in the future, the Inonge winner in the future. So we want to fight the scourge so that the next member of parliament should be a female from within Mpika. But if we allow parents to marry them off, we are not going to have a female member of parliament, because each and every child would have been married off. And we want to ensure that those that actually getting involved in those acts are punished by the law and the traditional council of our chiefdoms. So that is also one of our focus areas. We also want to ensure that there is water everywhere. I'll give you an example. There is an area called Mwamfushi. That is where they pump water from, which the whole district consumes. But you'll be surprised to find that the same area where water is coming from, they do not have access to tapped water. And that is what we want to work on. We want to take water there. We want to take water everywhere. Of course, there is a project already which is running, and we have already started rolling out the pipes in all the areas. Then we also want to ensure that we take our youths and women to skills training centers. Of course, we have a program where we are going to ensure that at least in every chiefdom we have put up a skills training center, because this is the only way we are going to empower people that have skills. If we do not take them to skills training centers, we will end up empowering people that do not even have a passion for what we are empowering them for. So we want first and foremost to take them to skills training centers. They get the necessary skills, then empower them, because we know they will be empowering people that know what they are supposed to do. Well, I should remind everyone that time for politicking is over. Now, the only time we have now is for development. I do not have any thirst for politics. I have thirst for development. I have to make an impact. I have to leave a legacy as a young person that has been elected for the first time in history, elected as a member of parliament from Mpika. My people should help me achieve my goals. Like, we want to put up a secondary school there for the deaf, for the whole province, Mchinga province. It should be in Mpika. That's what I'm working on right now. So our people should support us, and they should avoid the temptation of being dragged into politics. Now is where they need to bring ideas on the table on how we are going to develop our area, which has been lagging behind. We need to push for the municipal status of Mpika. We have everything. We have all the facilities that are needed for us to attain that status. But currently, we do not have that status, and it is on my table right now. We are pushing it. So my people should be there to ensure that they support me as their member of parliament, and ensure that we work together with the government of the day. Me, I'm a government officer, and I've shown allegiance to the President of the Republic of Zambia, regardless of who is there today. And so we need to work together, lobby development together from government. So members of my constituents need to support me, need to support development, need to support all that matters in terms of how we take Mpika to greater heights.